This is me starting the Cape Raft Trail. 2 years in the making, many pandemic related delays. Last year was cancelled due to COVID. This year was delayed because of COVID. And obviously yesterday was Scotland, England. And so I took that opportunity to carb load. I was feeling a bit worse for wear this morning. Thankfully, was coming to just as we arrived to Fort William about 4 today on the train. So Tanda Sammy's fish supper with mushy peas, and that was excellent. Hoping to get to Gairlochy today to set up camp, which is near the Achnacarry estate, which is of course where commandos trained in the Second World War. So it's a cool bit of history. This is Neptune's staircase. A little nautical themed cafe there and all. Quite a cool wee bit. Apparently it's 8 locks. So in the interests of breaking ourselves in gently, we've opted for the Great Glen variant to the start of the Cape Raft Trail. The normal way, or the most popular way of going via Glenfinnan requires a bit of a stomach sapping southerly direction for the first few miles, but the main reason really for doing this was the other way is quite tasty, especially once you get past Glenfinnan with the Beelacks, quite a lot of pathless terrain, etc. I've actually done Glenfinnan to Shielbridge before. It's beautiful, but it's a bit brutal. So, you know, Heather bash it through the rough bounds of Neudark. I actually think as well, just because of how still it is, and the fact there's loads of trees and water, that tonight is going to be one of those nights where you're just going to be breathing in the droves and droves, the biblical amounts of midges. So I'm going to have to lube myself up with that smidge and Avon Skin So Soft and just roll about in it really, and just trying to, because it's an awful blight of Scottish tourism, the midge. I mean, you can never really quite appreciate how bad it can actually get until it actually gets enough to make you cry. Someone's left their jacket there. There's a wee path going off, which is a wee bit spooky. That's quite cool. That's Moy Swing Bridge, so we've been going about 7 miles. I think it's about a mile, or maybe slightly more, to Gairlochy, which is what we're hoping to achieve tonight. I just passed the Gairlochy, and it's our first bit of, well, first bit that's not a towpath or like a road. Nice little bit of natural Scottish forest as well. But as you can see, it's still a very well defined path of the Great Glen Way. It just breaks off the main road out of Gairlochy, and then you're on this for say 500 or so metres, and you come back on. I think very shortly we're going to look for somewhere to settle down and camp. As discussed, looks like it's going to be a midge fest, so just bracing myself mentally for that hardship. And there we are, back on it. Scottish National Trails. I think this will be the only part of the Cape Raft Trail that will be waymarked for us. So like I say, mentally and physically breaking us in very gently. Morning. We got camped at about 9 o'clock last night. It was still light and hot, just north of Gairlochy on the banks of, I think it's Lochy, but it might be a separate loch. It's a big long loch that goes all the way up to Invergary that we're going to be walking on the west banks of today. Yeah, it's quite a stunning little place here. That over there is Speen Bridge, and I think it might be a tree or it might be the actual statue, but I think that is the I can't zoom in on this camera, or at least I don't know how. Commando Memorial to commemorate commandos during the Second World War. Commandos in general, they used to train here on the Achnacarry estate, which we'll walk past today, and the first test used to be getting off at Speen Bridge train station and then running the 7 miles from over there round in for sort of past Gairlochy and past where we are now, and then they'll go up the loch there, and I think you meant to do that in under an hour with all your bags and stuff. First proper day of the hike. I think we're going to try and get to Glengarry today. Bit of a midge-fest this morning. I was trying to fly the drone for the first time. I was enjoying the view, and then all of a sudden I just noticed that I was engulfed by an absolute horde of them. So the smidge has been lived on generously. Very gentle and idyllic start to the Cape Wrath Trail. Since we last spoke, there's been something of a downpour. I opted not to take out the waterproof jacket. Probably was the wrong decision. But so wet cotton or some sort of sports cotton blend is going to be quite heavy. But this has been a lovely little walk. You get this loch view, and when you don't get this loch view, you get like views of Scots pine and stuff. Might be a good time to talk about what kit I brought on the Cape Wrath Trail with me. I'll start with tent. I brought the Sea to Summit Alto TR2 Plus. So it's a sort of 3.5 season tent. I think it's about 1.2 kilograms. It's 2 person, but it's a tight squeeze at two people. It's very narrow. I'll get some footage for you. But it's got these big vertical walls and a sort of quite high ceiling for a lightweight tent. So it's good in that sense. In terms of other sleeping systems, I've got a thermal rest mat, self-inflating. I never really used the self-inflating feature. I always just inflate it myself because it never really seems to properly self-inflate. I don't know if I'm missing a trick or something there, but it doesn't really work for me. I've got a Rab ignition sleeping bag. I think it's good to have it like -2, maybe -3. It's that does me, and last night I just used it as a quilt because it was quite a warm night. In terms of waterproof, I've got a Mammoth. It's like a 3 membrane Gore-Tex, I'm pretty sure. I used to just rock like lightweight waterproofs, like I had a Haglof's Slim jacket, and then I went up Trefan once during Storm Dennis, and yeah, it just seeped through, and I thought it was about time to invest in something really good. So I got that off Trek It, and it was like 50% off, and I've actually used that in proper consistent rain over a couple of days, and it's a brilliant jacket, really breathable. I've got the Rab Neutrino. I've had that for years, literally almost nearly about 9 years now. Down jacket, it's fantastic jacket, keeps me really warm. An Isoba merino layer as well. A couple of t-shirts that are like this, like a sporty kind of cotton type thing. Mountain equipment, gloves, again forget what those are, and a couple of other things like, no, I think that's about it really. I haven't really brought that much extremely warm gear. I think if I go with the combination of the Rab jacket and I just squeeze that waterproof jacket on top, if I have an absolute stinker at some point, that is enough to keep you warm and dry. I tend to rock the shorts at every opportunity. Yeah, apart from that, the pack that I use is a Kestrel, is it Kestrel 58 litre. I love that pack. I had the 38 litres, just not enough for what I want to take on this trip, so I got the same rucksack in 20 litres more. I'm not really an authority on rucksacks, so I can't really compare it to anything because I don't think I've really had anything, but I just find for me those Osprey Kestrels rucksacks they've got loads of little features. You can strap stuff to it, you can add, and yeah, it's just a really good rucksack, and apart from everything else, it looks quite nice as well. Poo responsibly. Of navigation, I've just gone with the Harvey maps, north and south. Right now, because I'm doing the Great Glen Way and it's waymarked, it's quite easy to navigate, and we're just handrailing a lock essentially. Latter part of today and tomorrow, it'll be a bit more untracked. So we'll see. I have used the Harvey maps before for doing the Glenfinnan to Glen Shiel route, and the scale does throw me off a little bit because I'm used to either using one in 25,000 or one in 50,000. They obviously use one in 40,000. I'm not dissing the Harvey maps because they're mega useful things, but sometimes little features like a massive re-entrant or something like that, a small valley, it just won't get picked up on it. Calculating how much distance / time you're going to be hiking on a day-to-day basis, the Harvey maps are perhaps not ideal. Just to supplement that as well, I've got a Phoenix 5, I think it is. I've had that for years. It's a good, it does a job for navigation for me. I don't need a proper one, although the little charging port on the actual watch, not the cable but the port, that sometimes that has a bit of a malfunction. I think it's a well-known fault because I've googled that a few times. Basically every time it stops picking up the charge, I just wipe it with a little bit of white spirit, and generally that sorts it out. But yeah, that's a frustrating feature of the watch, but really it's a good watch. I use it for running as well, and I like it. And also I do them too tight to fork out for a proper GPS. And finally, footwear. After much discussion with my inner self, I went for the Innovate Rocklight, I can't remember, 345s. There you are, nice white socks look there. Don't tell me you don't like it. Yeah, these boots are fine. I've used them on a few hikes now. They are Gore-Tex with all the river crossings on this. On this hike, I'm not really sure how much that's required. The other options I was thinking about were either wearing a sort of rigid pair of, or not a rigid pair, but like a slightly more waterproof pair of trail running shoes. Over 10 miles done. Quite an easy 10 miles obviously, on the forest tracks and that, so it's no massive achievement, but I think we're just coming at the top of Gairlochy now, so there should be tea room, maybe like potentially even a pub, which would be nice because we've been walking in the rain all day. And check out this farm, cool little farm. How picturesque is that little tractor there? I don't think it's serviceable now. heading out of the Eagle Barge Inn, which is a floating canal boat pub on the northern banks of Gairlochy, the Lagan Locks. We're just heading up to join up with the 882 and very shortly. You might even be able to hear the traffic, and then we'll be heading left as the Great Glen Way heads right. And this is going to be the end of way marking. I think the Great Glen Way goes up there, and we going up the A82 for 500 metres or so, so there'll be some navigational errors inbound. Good morning. Just shut down camp and heading off now in the westerly direction towards Cluanie. We're passing, yeah, don't know how you pronounce that. I think we passed two hikers yesterday who said they weren't doing the Cape Wrath Trail, but asked if we were, and they were like, yeah, see when you get past Gairlochy, don't go down by the river, as the guide says, because that is hefty bog for quite a few K. So we're going to take a slight dog leg round there, which is going to add on like a mile or something like that. But as you see, I'm just not got wet feet yet. I'm just not ready for it either, unless I absolutely have to. Also, I'm wanting to wear the shorts for as long as possible and just enjoy that. Weather's like not bad, and it's just a lovely route. I think this is like the southern banks of Loch Garry, and it's just a lovely woodland. Like, we had an excellent camping spot last night, like, albeit it was optimal conditions for midges, like stillness, water, no sunlight, but it was just beautiful. And yeah, got a good sleep. It was a wee bit cold, but that's because I've been using my sleeping bag as a quilt. I'll probably go back to the old sleeping bag normal setting tomorrow. Nice little picnic bench. Cool wee picnic bench. Horseshoe track, but we're heading in this way. Oh, didn't want to disturb them. Last night I had the beginnings of a, well, I had a blister essentially. Wasn't in the beginnings of it, and it was one of those where I was like having a look at it. I was like, shouldn't I burst this, or wait for it to dry up, or it's a tough decision to make. And I went with the bursting option. Put a wee bit of antiseptic on it, and I'm so glad I did. It was kicking off just on the inside of my little toe of my left foot, and rubbing against my other toe and against the shoe. Quite a lot of friction there, just because I think these shoes are a tiny bit narrow, but they're comfortable, but they're just a tiny bit narrow over time, especially with the bag on as well. I think it's just sort of making my feet slightly wider, if anything. Just met a guy, really friendly guy, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but quite fairly into his senior years, and he's done the Cape Wrath Trail a few years ago, and he was telling us stories of which way he went and how he got back and all that. And one of the big headaches people have, I think, with doing this trail, other than the physical nature of it and how to camp and all that kind of stuff, is the logistics at the end, getting back from getting back from the lighthouse, because it's a bus to a ferry to a bus, and then you're still in the middle of nowhere. You need to get a bus back to get a train, and then you're only at Inverness. But he told me on his way to the lighthouse, the bus went by him and was like, "Oh, I've got one spot back if you're looking for a place back to the lighthouse." And then when he got to the village, he jumped on the school bus, because the school bus guy stopped him and said the same thing, and then he managed to pick up the train to Inverness, and he was back the same day. So stories like that sort of ease the woe a little bit. Also, walking down this track, I've got like 3 or 4 bars of 4G, which is funny because we're really not near anywhere. And I've been on the road across the loch, which eventually takes you to Kinlochcorn. I actually couldn't get into Kinlochcorn once because it was flooded, and that has absolutely 0 phone signal. So no, don't know what's going on there. With mackerel and sunflower seeds. Nice wee sport. That's me just been for my first Barry White of the real Barry White of the trip, and it went swimmingly. Dug a little hole and then a little bit of a backfill. It's weird for me because obviously 3rd day, first one. Usually I'm a bit more regular than that, but there's something what happens when I go hiking. I don't know whether it's because I'm burning calories like at quite a high level every day, or whether just because my body's just like, don't really fancy doing it here because they're at the same levels of convenience. I just don't go quite as much. That's the River Garry, so we're just going to join up with a road that goes to Kinlochcorn. As I mentioned before, I've been on that once before and it was flooded, so we were in a state and I couldn't actually get to where I wanted to go, which was Kinlochcorn, and pick the lads up. So we had to run the last 5 miles. I think those pylons service the Isle of Skye. Onwards. Spidian Mylac. That must be you. First bit of climbing, really, and really also the first time we've been off a proper well-trod path. As you can see, it's not bad at all really, but it's a little bit mushy, and I reckon at another time of year it would be even more mushy, but just thankful it's not that time of year. And that's where we came from today, so I think you can see Ben T in the distance. Pardon if that isn't Ben T. Loch Garry, River Garry, and we bashed it up here. It's quite, the path actually gets better. It looked a little bit sodden at the start, but now it's okay. And those are the saplings. Quite cool. And that is a rough bounds of Knoydart, continued over there as well. Don't know if you can quite see it on this one, but I can. It's exciting looking at it. Last night's camping spot was good, but as discussed, it was a haven for the midges. So what we're going to do, because they got a good feed last night, to avoid, you know, overfeeding, we're going to go for this saddle in here and hope that the breeze is such, the exposure is such that there's going to be less / none of them, because yeah, otherwise, because we've got the hotel after this, Cluanie, and I'm able to spend all night scratching myself silly because, you know, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt and allowing myself to get scranned alive by the Highland midge. Obviously sleeping at this altitude, not that it's a massive altitude, but still it's enough for it to be a couple of degrees, perhaps more, colder. So probably break out the down jacket or sleep in my merino layer and get inside the sleeping bag tonight, just because the first night was so hot and I hate being too hot. I used the sleeping bag as a quilt and I got away with that. Didn't have a top on either. So what I'll go for tonight is I'll trap the heat inside and you know, probably have a couple of layers on. It's gonna be something nice. Ah, and there it is, Jade. Nah, there's a couple of hills there as well. If you noticed that, that's a fantastic view. That, well, that's something special. So I think we'll just look to camp somewhere here. Cause camping spot tonight. Little god rays coming through, and then that is oh, I can't remember. But anyway, we are crossing that Loch Loyne. That's it. So we're crossing the loch down there tomorrow, and then going up that path where you can see the sunlight on, and down the other side, and then we're coming into Cluanie. So that'll be smashing. It's a little bit chilly, but at the expense of a breeze. Sorry, at the expense of midges. Porridge oats. A stunning morning, very nice morning. Just had a look at the map last night, and we kind of know where we're going, which is that pass there, just to the right hand side of that mountain. And actually, looking at the map, it seems to suggest we come down and then up that, in between that smaller hill. Just, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little road in there, and then up the pass, you know, which is a detour of about at least 3 kilometres. And I'm just wondering whether, I think that's probably in the interests of crossing that river, the River Loyne. I'm just wondering whether we can just go straight up, you know, straight down, straight along, because I don't think I've seen the rivers on this trip so far. None of them are really in spate or very full at all, so I think that might be quite an easy walk across it. We've got Crocs. Well, I've not got Crocs, but I've got these little hot tuna things from Sports Direct, and I think that would make it simple. And then obviously we've got lots of time, so we might crack up. There's 2 Munros there, I forget the name of them. Though I'm not that much of a Munro bagger, I might recommend that we go steam up 2 of them. I worried about midges this morning because it's so still, but it wasn't too bad. Just donned the head net and lathered ourselves up in smidge, and it was fine, really. yesterday I was talking about the regeneration projects of the Caledonian forest. Well, that must be it too. Those young saplings, looks pretty cool. I don't know how much detail you can get on the GoPro, but yeah, it's nice that it is in there. It's also a very lovely and remote area, Glenloyne. Don't think it gets too many visitors. This is our first river crossing. It's looking pretty straightforward thus far. That's some wee tributary. And this is the main boy here. It's quite deep, but it's not fast flowing at all. So I'm going to head a bit further up where I think it thins a little bit. Dry feet. There's one more over there. Just picked up this wee path, which is not the way that the guide says, but we wanted to cross the river slightly sooner, just to avoid the dog leg. So this is a bit of a gamble. Then there's another path that comes up the other way, up the hill. We should have gone down that way, and hopefully we should save ourselves a couple of kilometres, maybe even more. But that's all depending on what the paths are like. The view has just opened up for us, so we've just climbed down from Lochloyne. Well, that must be Lochloyne, sorry. This must be the River Loyne. That's where we camped last night. So we decided to climb the two Munros instead of going into straight down to the Cluanie Inn, simply because we can't check in before 3 o'clock anyway, and we only had about 7 or so miles to do today, and they were quite easy miles. That track that we were on earlier, that's more of the same, and it would become even better as we got into the Cluanie Inn. So we're going to do the first 2 Munros of 7. I can only see 3 on my map, of this ridge, which is on the south side of Glen Shiel, and then on the second one we're going to take a spur. After some lunch we're going to take a spur that goes north, and it looks on the map to be like you can walk down it. On the map I've got, the Cape Wrath Trail map, there's no track as such marked on there, but when you get further down this spur at about 600 metres there's a track that goes down all the way into the Cluanie Inn. So that's what we're going to do. That's the plan anyway. Yeah. Oi. Get choked. Smash it. Okay, so we're just going to peel down off this little north facing spur, which looks nice to begin with, but I don't know what it'll look like later. That down there is A7, is it, to Shield Bridge, and down at the end of that glen is where we're going to be camping tomorrow. Morvich. Can't see it on the map, but obviously we're going to go behind those over there, which are the Five Sisters. Got a funny story about the Five Sisters actually. I did that a couple of years ago with 2 friends. We parked somewhere, did them, and then went to Shield Bridge, Kintail Craft Shop, got a little snack, and then the idea was to hitchhike back to the car, and that was a bit of a drama. No one really pulled over for me. There weren't that many cars. It was just me with my thumb out. But then my friends managed to get a French couple to give me a lift who were inside the shop, Kintail Crafts, and then so they gave me a lift very kindly all the way to my car, and I must have left my side lights on because my car battery was dead. So then, and I had no phone signal as well, so I was there with my car bonnet open if I'm in down a lift again. On this occasion, with the car bonnet open, looking for jump leads to start the battery again. A lot of people did stop, a lot of tourists actually, because it was that time of year. Really kind of them, from sort of mostly from Europe, French and German. They were like, oh, do you need help? Do you need a lift? Blah blah blah. I said, no, I need jump leads. Do you have jump leads? And they were like, no, we don't have jump leads. So didn't get jump leads. And then I must have been waiting about an hour. Some guy came teaming in the corner in a BMW, like the kind of car and the kind of driving you probably don't associate with stopping to help someone, but he did. He stopped and, oh, bit of a drop there. This might be quite a nice place for his lunch. He stopped and he got the car. We pushed it up together. His son and girlfriend, son's girlfriend, were a bit further down on the road. They came, stopped, so all four of us pushed the car up a small hill, and the guy bump started it for me. Never ever judge a book by its cover, because that guy saved my life. I never got his name. Scottish guy, really friendly. With mackerel, banging view. There's the hotel for tonight. Cluanie. We've just come off down here. We're heading to this lock, and then there's a path at the northern edge, I think, which will take us down. There she is, and that is the path we're going up tomorrow. Right to the back of the Five Sisters. The resupply has arrived.